天涯呀，海角，你呀你知音。
Let's set what courtesan is. High class prostitute,
High class, well, yeah.
escort? What would you say?
No, well, it was people actually, women who were actually courted in these high-class brothels in Shanghai.
So you
men
saw
would bring
clothes?
them gifts, and then the courtesan actually got to choose.
Yeah.
High-class one.
During the late Qing dynasty, Shanghai courtesans were no longer like the courtesans who were thought to be highly educated and versatile during the Ming dynasty. Courtesans in late Qing dynasty were often exaggerated by Western travelers to be more educated and talented than other Chinese women and prostitutes, thus proclaiming them to be more free. This false narrative masks the restrictions placed upon them by the courtesan house and the dependence they had on men. Oftentimes, when Western travelers encounter Shanghai courtesans, they are infatuated and become in awe of the talent and beauty these courtesans display. A common exaggeration and clarification was produced among many Western travelers. The reason behind this could be what Kuhn asserts in her essay, Encounters with Otherness, that the desire to understand the encounter through a recognizable framework is not unusual for the traveler in a foreign land. A male traveler in the late Qing dynasty named Gustav wrote in his travel accounts published in 1877 praising and admiring Chinese courtesans. He tried to distinguish courtesans from prostitutes by stressing on their artistic skills and education level. However, comparing what courtesans in Europe were like, Gustav was probably just as Kuhn argues, translating otherness into a framework that is familiar to the self. In the book The Honest Courtesan, the author argues that playing music, singing, composing poetry, and presenting a sophisticated figure were the courtesan's necessary marketable skills. And as a Western scholar, Bone described in his essay, Modes and Manners, that Venetian ladies never appeared in the street. Generally speaking, none but the courtesans showed themselves in public, real ladies being visible only at their windows or on the balconies of their palace. It can be seen that Western courtesans were highly educated in arts and literature as well as their exceptional freedom in public domain.
Courtesans, my dear, are the most educated women in the world.
Gustav's accounts of Chinese courtesans being learned and free are incredibly similar to what Western writers wrote about Western courtesans. This similarity may not be a mere coincidence, but truly the result of travelers' attempts to translate Chinese courtesans into their counterparts, Western courtesans, through their recognizable framework. Besides what could potentially add to the exaggerated image of courtesans created by Western writers is the exotic characteristics of Shanghai courtesans. As Madison illustrates in his book, the tale depicts Eastern women as near unattainable objects of desire, enhancing their exotic allure. Indeed, Shanghai courtesans' image of being versatile and well-educated might just be the outcome of their enhanced exotic allure. However, these courtesans are selling illusions, meaning that they are not that different from prostitutes. Many times, courtesans only knew how to play one song on an instrument or could only recite certain poems because they were forced to. The image of courtesans that Western travelers idealized is refuted to be a myth, which does not stand up to a close examination of the elementary data nor to simple logic. The level of education of most courtesans and prostitutes in the 20th century was extremely low, no matter what category they belonged to. However, in comparison to a traditional Chinese woman of the late Qing dynasty, a first-class courtesan does appear to be more free from societal restrictions. Traditional women have been restricted by Confucius's theory for their whole life, but not the courtesans. Confucius ranked women on the same level as slaves, 小人, small or inferior men. A woman's first duty was to serve her husband and her parents-in-law, to take care of the household, and to give birth to healthy male children. Although courtesans are free from conventional societal norms, they are then just trapped within the social structure of their courtesan house. Under the control of their madam, courtesans are forced to learn some skills to become a money tree, which means that they don't have the freedom to use the money they make. In the book of Prostitution and Sexuality in Shanghai, the author argues that although some of them may enjoy the preferential treatments in respect of social economy, their legal status in most cases show the characteristic of slavery, which means they are also oppressed by the law.
I always wanted to know what circumstances would lead a woman to become a first-class courtesan, whether their mothers had been in that trade or whether They had been kidnapped. A lot of girls were kidnapped during that time. And all the first-class courtesans knew if they didn't get a position within a few years, they could descend and end up on the street, and a lot of them did. These were girls who began their careers at age 14, 15, 16, and their careers were basically over by the time they were 22, 23. You were lucky if you were popular enough to last until you were in your late 20s or early 30s.
What's more, they also become dependent on the men that provides their house with business, much like how conventional women are dependent on their husbands to provide for the family. Within these courtesan houses, it is a whole other world regarding women's restrictions and expectations. This reflects women's overall inability of escaping female oppression during that time.